The quiet comfort of preparing for tomorrow before bed. The unspoken promise of predictable weather, setting out your clothes, preparing your coffee pot, packing a secret chocolate snack with your lunch. That's almost over. The world's rhythms are shattering, replaced by unprecedented storms, searing heat, and constant humidity that can permanently impact life as we know it. And that makes even my hair frizzy and unmanageable. And while there's still time to make a difference, we're just not doing enough. That's what we're talking about today on Environmental with Dandelion.
If this is your first time tuning into Environmental with Dandelion, this is our podcast where we lean into sustainability stories that you might have missed. We are your hosts and the co-founders of Dandelion Branding. That's Aub and I'm Court. Our mission is to make noise for purpose-driven brands and to push sustainability into mainstream conversations. Today, we're talking about the real state of climate change. Big one. But before we jump into it, I just want to remind you that a lot of algorithms really are devaluing conversations around sustainability, especially when using some of these certain buzzwords. And we refuse to censor ourselves or fall prey to green hushing. So we need your help. So help us make sure that these stories get seen and are heard. So please spread the love by liking, subscribing, and sharing the podcast with all of your friends that might lean a little bit eco or eco-curious, if you will. All right, let's hear some fast good news. Ready for it?
I'm ready for it. So here's some fast good news because everyone deserves fast good news right now. The Guardian reported that in Korea, a group of environmentalists are literally trying to get bottlenose dolphins populations living off the coast recognized as legal people so that they can take legal action against the folks and the companies that are harming them. Love it.
Love it. They're brilliant.
If companies can be people, dolphins can be people. Come on here.
Yes. Arguably smarter than companies. Yes.
Arguably better. Yes. Environmental justice on the other side of the world. Authorities from Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru conducted over 350 coordinated raids between June 23rd and July 6th of this year, targeting illegal mining, wildlife trafficking, logging, and fuel smuggling across some of Amazon's most sensitive regions. In the raids, they seized $64 million and 94 people were arrested. Associated Press reported that one. I'm so stoked on that. Like, sucks that that's happening, but like, damn, good job, guys.
Yeah, that was probably a very dangerous raid that took a lot of planning. Man, that's crazy.
Yeah. The California government shared that renewable energy is not alternative energy. Bam. It powered California 67% of the time in 2023, which is the last year we have full data for it, but 2024 and 2025 are even more promising. Let's go renewable energy. Let's go California. Okay. And speaking of promising environmental information, public service announcement, the Enlight Foundation, the Patchwork Collective, and Lever for Change, the Emerging Climate Champions Award, which is a $25 million global open call that will provide flexible multi-year gifts of $1 million to youth-led organizations that are advancing climate solutions around the globe. The call is open to register until August 15th, 2025. So this episode will come out August 6th. So you still have like 10 days. We will definitely put it in the show notes. Go do that. That is awesome.
Wow. Huge funding. Let's do it. Let's fund more exciting youth-led solutions. Oh my God.
Yeah, $25 million at $1 million a year Does that mean that it's $1 million a year for one, or are they going to choose like 25 and give them $1 million, or maybe they choose like 3 and then they fund them for a longitudinal project or something?
Oof, all good questions.
Probably they don't know yet.
Yeah, it's probably
right?
pretty flexible. Like, yeah, they're still figuring it out.
Hopefully there are thousands, but also I'm sorry for whoever has to sort through all of those amazing things and make choices, because that sounds like it's really hard.
Oh my gosh, I would want to support every single one. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's crazy.
Lots at stake there.
Woo! Speaking of things being at stake.
Oh, that was good.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about
Still.
Let's talk about our national parks in America.
Woo! Update on the national parks.
Yeah, the national parks is such a huge one because it's such like a core part of, I don't know, American culture, in my opinion, is access to outdoor spaces and national parks.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you not feel strongly about it?
I don't know. We just do. It's like, yeah, we care.
Dang it, we care.
Dang it! So this one is news because the US president just signed 2 executive orders called the Make America Beautiful Again executive orders, and one of them is like Make America Beautiful Again by updating our national parks or something like that, but it was basically like 2 executive orders that were kind of the same order.
Yeah.
They're kind of vibing on the same situation.
Yeah. And I mean, to take a step back, like, you know, I think, and we mentioned this in previous episodes, there were other things that have happened that have certainly led to defunding of the National Park Service, or just they're cutting staff and things like that. So this almost seemed like it was like a direct kind of reaction to what they had previously done, which is kind of confusing because it's the same administration. So it seemed like a little bit of a flip-flop, and people were like, oh, this sounds really exciting.
It's really good.
Cool. We could get on board with this.
Yeah. So to be clear, there were like $267 million worth of cuts and almost 25% reduction in staff, permanent staff, which is like pushing the NPS to a breaking point. And there are more than $23 billion in deferred maintenance that needs to happen in national parks around the country. So people are saying like, this is cool. But do you know what the order actually says that they're gonna do?
Yeah.
For this deficit, they're just gonna charge more money for entry.
Specifically for non-residents, which is gonna be weird. Yeah. I feel like I've never seen
for foreigners is what
that feels weird and gross. Never seen any other country do that. But also, I mean, they're using really interesting language in this.
They sure are.
And it's really interesting ways of making it sound a lot more like kind of lighthearted and good and well-intentioned than it actually is.
Greenwashing.
Right. Hey, there's the word. Right.
Greenwashing is lying.
Mm-hmm. Right. So in reality, it's sort of, they're seeking to remove some kind of regulations or rules on what recreation is restricted in national parks. Okay. What does that mean to you?
I mean, removing restricted recreation to me means I can go a little farther to go camping. But I think to a lot of people, it means hunting, overfishing, developing the land. This is specific language to people. And remember that we just said companies are people in the USA. So does that mean that they're going to develop on that land? Does that mean they're going to log that land? Are they going to be allowed to do that? That's a big question mark. But this executive order uses really pretty language to certainly allow for that to happen.
Totally. And I mean, yeah, I think rolling back on restrictions on recreation, like those restrictions have been in place because people did stupid stuff. Like no rule is in place for no reason.
Yeah.
Like there are reasons behind all of this. And yeah, I mean, you're right. I think that you can say you want to use this space more efficiently or more effectively. And that sounds really good, but what could that mean? That could mean selling it, right, to private, like to just no longer be public land. It could mean, right, logging, mining, any of those things, developing it further, none of which are things that we agree with. And I think that if that language were used and that was, those specifics were given, I think that a lot of people would not agree with it. But here we are.
Yeah, but that's kind of like what this administration is really good at, right? They're like spin doctors. And I don't know anybody, even I would actually go so far as to say my biggest, country bumpkin redneck friends are the people that want to be in the national park and be left alone and be out there in the wilderness, being their Bear Grylls guy. That's what they want to do, right? That. And maybe they read when I read it the first time, I was like, damn, that's kind of cool. And then I went, wait, I know who I'm reading words from.
Right.
I'm going to give it another and then I was like, oh, this is not great.
Totally. Yeah. I think that that's the name of the game, is that you can't just take this stuff that is coming out of this administration at face value and just hope that they mean well.
They literally never mean well. They literally which is the unfortunate thing. A lot of pundits out there are still giving the administration the benefit of the doubt in reading about this or in reading about a lot of other things going on. They're still giving the benefit of the doubt. And it's I can't, if you're doing that, you're in the wrong place. Sorry. But we, a hard no, are going to take a second look at every single word that comes out here.
When is the doubt no longer beneficial? When do we stop with the benefiting of the doubt? I'm not benefiting. I'm not given the benefit of the doubt. No. All right. Yes.
And the staffing issue. So the staffing is a really big problem. It's not directly addressed here. They're just saying, we're going to charge more. And then who's going to do that? Who's going to take care of it? Who's going to deal with this, these huge budget cuts? And how are we going to help with this deficit? Do you really think that what did I say it was? $23 billion for just in deficit maintenance, not even to keep it going now, but to help deal with stuff that needed to happen over the past several years. Maybe that will make a dent, but not with 25% of permanent staff being cut for their jobs, and there's not enough summer staff coming on. This executive order says absolutely nothing about it, but it does say in the very bottom, almost all the way buried in the bottom, in case you don't feel like reading the whole thing, that they are actively revoking the DEI work that has gone into hiring at the NPS. What? Does that help?
It's that whole thing. It's such just a rhetoric thing at this point. But it is interesting that is in direct contradiction to what the IPCC says about DEI in terms of, their well-researched opinion is that prioritizing equity, climate justice, social justice, inclusion helps to enable adaptation. And I think, just bringing in more perspectives and voices, it's just it's never not beneficial, especially
that's right
in terms of caring for our land as a country. So that is sort of in direct contradiction of what this International Panel for Climate Change believes to be true. And yet,
I mean, I feel like it's pretty clear at this point that the US administration doesn't care about making a difference with climate change, and it's having a pretty big impact on how the world is seeing and talking about climate change. But ignoring problems doesn't make them go away. It doesn't make them go away.
Sure doesn't.
No, stop doing that. Release the list.
Yes.
But we're going to talk about the real state of climate change right now.
Because
it matters.
Things are happening all over the world in terms of extreme weather events. And it's scary. It's scary right now, but you can't have conversations about these things, in our opinion, without kind of talking about the whole picture. We're holistic humans, so this is what we do.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we were like, what should we talk about? I kind of want to talk about climate change. And then the rabbit hole ensued of like, okay, so what's actually going on? Because there's so many like unprecedented things happening that are they climate change? Are they not climate change? So we just said, you know what? Let's just set the baseline and get into what is actually going on right now. So the information we pulled comes from a myriad of sources that are government and independently funded agencies, nonprofit, and educational sources from all over the world. I did look into the funding for all of them just in case, because it's important. Like where the money comes from can totally change how information is presented. So we looked at the World Weather Attribute, the European Environment Agency, the Center for Climate Change and Energy Solutions, the Climate Action Tracker, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, which is actually being defunded by the US right now, unfortunately, and the IPCC. And them's the folks in charge of all of the things. And also the World Meteorological Organization.
Yes. So I would say a pretty well-rounded group there. Pretty much.
Yeah.
That's
the science.
That's
who's doing it.
This is science. This is science.
Yeah.
All right. So what's the current state? Where are we at?
Well, let's define what we mean by climate change so that we're all on the same page here, because
it's a good place to start. Let's do it.
It's a good place to start.
Yeah.
So global and or regional climate patterns that are changing largely due to human activity and our emissions of greenhouse gases, which is leading to global warming. Yes, it's warming. We'll get into that a little while later. Things are changing in every part of our planet, on the ocean, on the surface, in the atmosphere, the biosphere, and it is a threat to humans and planetary health. And we're in the 6th extinction period. The science agrees already. We are seeing more extinctions right now due to human-caused climate change than we have seen before. How's that definition?
No, yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty thorough. I think, so like the consequences of that are that we're seeing an increase in the intensity and the frequency of these extreme weather events, right?
Mm-hmm.
As the climate, as ecosystems shift, as all of these changes are happening, extreme weather events are going to get worse and more frequent.
Absolutely. And what I find really interesting about like all the data, and I think one of the big problems here is that it's always talked about on this global scale. Like my definition was just like, yeah, things are changing. And it's like that we don't have these tangible examples all the time of what climate. It feels really abstract, and it feels really like, how do we say what's climate change and what's not? So at the 11th hour of like researching and like finding all this stuff, we found the World Weather Attribution, and that is literally their job. That is literally what they do. They look at extreme weather all around the world and decide whether it can be attributed to climate change or if it's just normal shit that happens. And there are so many events. I was looking through it and I was like, there is an event attributed to climate change like twice a week. around the world. And we don't hear about them. These are not just these like huge Texas storms that killed a bunch of people or out of season droughts and hurricanes. It's just events that you just wouldn't otherwise hear about. And it's like actually kind of shocking to look and peruse through the site. And I think if you're interested in climate change and what it's actually doing, that's a really good website to look at, the World Weather Attribution.
It'll be in the show notes for sure. That link. What amazing work, right? Like that is intense research to be doing, but
oh man, yeah.
Like that data is what can really like hold us accountable, I think. And also then you can actually speak factually with people about whether or not a particular thing was something that was climate change related, or just like, yeah, right, this happens every year in that area. Can we not politicize that? You know, it's like not everything needs to be political, but there are sometimes many do.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think climate change should be a political issue, but here we are.
Yeah. But it is in America.
Yeah, I think it is kind of everywhere. Like, we'll get into that, I think, a little bit later, just about like different opinions that we've seen and want to give like the critical thinking, like other sides of stories that are, you know. But first we're going to start with fat, because that's nice. Some of the more tangible things that are happening around the world, which these actually come from the World Meteorological Report for 2024. In Africa, some spaces are having serious flooding, and then like really big droughts, and then major heat waves, and the one I found really interesting, Court, was the Sahel region. I don't think I'm saying that right. Had more than 50% above average rainfall in a season, which killed a lot of people, but also at another part of Africa, just like total drought for 3 years in a row. And their agriculture systems are really screwed up, and their food insecurity is going crazy. And I feel really lucky and that we live in this part of the world until you start looking at like other things. This isn't just in Africa. Yeah, they're hit the hardest because of wealth disparity, and they can't, right it away. But then you look at some of the more close but also wealthy regions like parts of Saudi Arabia that are having these extreme heat waves and freaking typhoons. And then in other parts of the world, like in South America and along the coast in the West and in the North America, there are wildfires. We know about that. Some of the biggest, most dangerous wildfires that have ever existed in Mexico, in Chile, in the US have happened in the past few years. And then in Europe, we're looking at like flash floods and extreme rainfall. And in Southern Europe, there was like the hottest summer on record, and it killed a ton of people because I didn't know this, but heat waves are the most dangerous extreme weather event. It seems it's like, oh, it's just hot, but actually extremely dangerous. We are not prepared for the level of heat that happens in these heat waves. Our bodies can't handle it. And in case you didn't catch it, global warming is what we're talking about. So heat waves are at unprecedented levels right now. It's very real. And that report is also linked in the show notes. That is the PDF linked in the notes. When I was at Reset Connect, I went to a talk called Save the Flavors. And they from Climate Base Camp, and they shared this endangered food list that are like talking about how these types of weather activities are really impacting our coffee, our chocolate. I was not kidding when I said that our secret chocolate snacks are over. Like, we are endangering our favorite foods for real.
Oh,
and it's really sad. Really sad.
I mean, yeah. Isn't that crazy that like we can say that we're, these heat waves are killing thousands and thousands of people.
Literally thousands.
Right. And if that, isn't enough for you, like, okay.
Right? I'm laughing, but it's not funny.
It's not funny. I know we always default to laughing when this stuff gets so heavy because it's like,
yeah,
what can you, but like, it's true. But so like, even if you are not hurt that year, our food systems are being so deeply affected by all of this as well. And we're not going to see the effects of that immediately. And And like, it's just like, we're really putting ourselves into such an insane situation right now.
Yeah.
So what can we do? What can we do?
Things aren't great.
Things are not great, but what can we do?
No. Yeah, so there are some things that the science agrees on that we can do. And these are like sort of bigger things, not individually people things, although I do think sharing these stories is really important. So again, don't forget to like and share this story because stuff is really important and we try to do our best to make it accessible and also not scary. I mean, this topic right now is a little scary, but like we try our best.
Yeah.
So we do need to limit our CO2 emissions. We do need to get to net zero, preferably within this decade or within the next couple of decades. We need to make a very real change to how we work on our emissions. It's good and bad. And I know we've talked about this before. It's good and bad because everything has to change. So all of our infrastructure. So it's like bad because it's everything, but it's good because that means that there's a lot of opportunity in every sector of our world, I think.
Yeah.
Well,
when change comes, I think it comes pretty quickly. Like the pendulum.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Yeah. Who was it that was telling us about, like, was it on a podcast? It might have been also something that we were talking about before. It's like, if you look at how technology changes and even like the way that like renewables are changing right now, it starts really slow. And then there's like these incremental things. And then it just like, boom, it just goes really fast. So I have this hope, and I think it's the only hope we actually have to reduce emissions, that everybody is just making those incremental changes right now before we see the big push at the end. Because I mean, we talk to enough people that are making these things happen that like we know it's possible. It just has to get there.
Yeah. I see it. I think that we're close. Yeah. I think that there's a group of people that are certainly still holding on to the ways of the old, but
yeah. But like the other thing that even the IPCC reports and NOAA reports is that like there is sufficient capital to make these things happen. And we just talked about it already exists. It's really just about breaking down barriers to funding when it comes to restricted funds or like longer term thinking from investors. The IPCC had like a specific note for investors that investment in new tech spurs job growth. If you want to spur the economy and make it things more affordable and better living, that investors should actually put time and energy into spurring new technology, because especially renewable energy, because it pushes a lot of jobs and a lot of money into the best sectors for that economy to grow.
Absolutely. And those are good jobs. Like those are good actual, those are, that could make actual tangible difference in people's real lives. Right? Not executive order, like, just talking points like that. Yeah. Investing in that sort of stuff has a real potential. And I think that we're getting there. I think that adoption of renewables is definitely becoming more mainstream. And like you mentioned, right? It is no longer an alternative energy. It's actually just energy sources.
It's just the energy. Yeah, it's the vibe.
Right. That's the vibe.
But like some people don't think so. I think we should talk about other opinions that we've seen. I actually just got a text message from a friend about this, which is interesting. Because I'm the bitch that walks around and talks about climate change. I'm like, it's literally my job. I'm gonna have these hard conversations with people who don't believe it. Right? Yeah. And like that's what we do
in my life.
Yeah, well, that's what we do. So I just got a text from somebody. I sent her the endangered foods list. Because I've been talking about it pretty much as often as possible since I went to that talk. I think it's fascinating, and I think it's a really good way to get people interested in discussing climate change, to be like, yeah, that chocolate you're eating,
say no more.
It's not gonna, it's gonna take a minute, but like, because they have stores Because so they like harvest a bunch and then they store it and it ferments. So it takes time for that to change. But I was like, did you notice how expensive it is? She had noticed how expensive chocolate was. And I was like, yeah, climate change is making it harder for chocolate to grow. And I went to this talk and there's this like bug that eats it, that like the humidity is changing and the soil is changing. So I explained to her about the talk and I sent her the endangered list and she just got back to me and said she doesn't believe it because they use may statements and they're not facts or science.
Oh, boy. Huh?
She is saying, you know, that like she wants more information. So, hi, she's about to get a rapid fire of information. But it's that simple, right? She's critically thinking around what she's reading, and I appreciate it. And a lot of people are doing that, but they're seeing, oh, chocolate is endangered, and then they go, that's a scare tactic. It's not really endangered. But they never take the next step and think, where's chocolate grown? Oh, the Ivory Coast. What's happening in the Ivory Coast? If you don't think that those severe storms and that drought and that shit that's happening, that's literally in the data affecting their agricultural system and their food security isn't affecting your chocolate, there's a gap there. There's something missing there. Part of me is like, is it wishful thinking? Is it that hope?
I mean, it's hard to say, I suppose, but I've had similar experiences recently. Or just really kind of over the past couple of years, really, not to like defer or divert the conversation a little bit, but like in terms of what conversations around climate change and this term global warming, because there's a growing number of people here that like really kind of buck at the term global warming and are like, no, it's actually global cooling. And there's this whole kind of rhetoric around that, because there have been a couple reports that have come out that kind of show cooling in different parts of our atmosphere, for sure. But like, we live in this part. So like, what's happening in the stratosphere? Like,
yeah, but like,
we're going to go up there, but okay. But
yeah, so like a couple of reports though.
Right, exactly.
Why is it like the couple of reports versus the thousands at this point?
Because it's like a confirmation bias. You want to know that you're going to be okay. You want to know that your children are going to be okay.
Yeah.
You want to feel like you're not hurting the planet with your existence, you know, like with accepting that we are harming the planet, I think comes with a lot of sort of like self-reckoning in terms of like, who are you, your identity. Like you have to like really kind of reconcile with how you exist on the planet. And that's a level of that I think that we lose a lot of people. I think that's what, you know, that's not
self-reflection. No.
But like it is interesting. I think that it's coming from a place of like of hope, of like just wanting for everything to be okay and wanting for the people in charge, wanting to trust that the people in charge have your best interest in mind and are doing the right thing and are smart and are competent and capable.
Yeah.
But how many, you know, it feels like we're sort of in an emotionally abusive relationship with our government currently.
Oh my God.
I feel that.
Yeah.
But it is, I don't know, it's an interesting thing where I think it is sort of a confirmation bias or sort of just like it like evokes something in you to want to be like, no, I don't want to believe that. Everything is going to be actually okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But is it? I don't know. And I just heard this really interesting podcast. If any of you are out there, listen to Diary of a CEO. It's fascinating. He has a lot of like really like well-known like science-based guests on that just have interesting opinions, and he asks very pointed questions. And sometimes the questions get a little aggressive, and I appreciate that. And he brings on people he doesn't always agree with, and he brought on Eric Weinstein. Ignore the title, which is mostly clickbait, because it's also in the show notes. But what I found super interesting, which is not what their conversation was about, was this really short blurb where he talked about a topic that's outside of my echo chamber a little bit. So I really liked this. And he talked about how like we've been living in this calm before the storm for 60 years. and pretending like everything has been changing really fast. But it kind of hasn't. I think you said remove the screens from the room. And how do you know we're not in the 70s? It's a wild way to think about it. And so we have these people who are like, global warming's not real. Everything's fine. The chocolate plants are fine. Everything's fine because it's always been fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that like the more I hear those arguments, the more I'm like, damn, Eric Weinstein is a brilliant. That really sticks with me.
Absolutely. I think that is fascinating. And yeah, I would say it's deeply connected to that feeling of wanting for everything to be fine, to stay fine.
Yeah.
America Great Again seeks to stay and return to that space forever.
Correct.
Like they just think 50s America, that dream is that is achievable for everything, all like it's fiction.
Wow. I just had this moment where I hadn't heard Make America Great Again out loud.
Yeah, sorry, is it like a curse word around there? Yeah, it's like a
yeah, we don't.
It's a Voldemort type term. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, it is. But I hadn't heard it out loud, and definitely not together with thinking about like this relative stasis. Make America Great Again is just
want to sit in that. They just want to be held in that.
Literally, people are like, we want to stay in our stasis. We want to stay in this safe bubble. The change can't come. We don't need to go off the planet because the planet's going to be okay. Whoa. What we said earlier, ignoring problems doesn't make them go away.
Yes, I recently watched the movie Don't Look Up. Rewatched. It's it. I mean, it's such a brilliant metaphor for like how in your face does it need to be in order for you to recognize the problem, sort of a thing. But I think it's also a beautiful metaphor for how people just will put the blinders on further and further to stay in that stasis, in that comfort.
Absolutely.
I do find that desire for things to be okay, like I find it endearing, and I think it can be used as a way to unite people. Like I think that like we all just want everything to be okay, right? Like we all just want to figure out how humans can stay existing on this planet. We just disagree, I guess, in terms of like the details and how, But I think knowing kind of the other side and what motivates them and what, values they hold, I think that that's something that we as progressive people need to like study more and we have to speak to that. We have to unite people to get things to change, right? Or else we're no better than some, authoritarian who's just telling people what to do. Right?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
We don't want to do that. But so I don't know. I think that it is sort of an endearing human trait that we all just want everything to be okay. So I think it's just finding empathy for people who have differing opinions is something that we could all spend a little bit more time focusing on. That's my positive takeaway here.
I love that. Just
Yeah. I think that we could I think that we need to it's a rebranding game a little bit for climate change. I
think climate change needs to stop rebranding because we have sustainability, we have climate change, we have ESG, we have all these new things. So we need global warming is where it started, right? Like in the 90s, everybody said global warming and that's why people got all crazy about it. And then, So maybe it's harder to change an opinion. How do we make it more people listen? How do we make it more accessible? And then you just hear more people being like, let's just change the name. And I don't disagree, but also that's confusing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I mean, quite frankly, I feel like the two opposing sides here have much more in common than they want to believe.
Agree.
It's so I don't know. Yeah, it's not a branding thing.
I just had this idea. I think it's the national parks. I think.
So,
right? Like what? Yeah, because like we said, I'm done giving this administration the benefit of the doubt. What can we attack that everybody cares about in a way that like disrupts everyone, creates polar opinions, and then and divides people more? I think that where people can come together and really talk about the impacts of climate change and the impacts of human centered emissions being a problem are with the national parks. And I feel like that's why it's so high on the agendas to cut those budgets and develop it, because it's going to polarize people back into their little camps.
But like having open national parks and like open space, I think is something that anybody like generally across the aisle people would agree with. So
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so you're saying that
that's what I'm saying.
That is an issue that could unite people.
Because everybody can be united over the national parks.
Yeah.
So how can we polarize it? I feel like that's a real discussion in this administration, is how can we polarize the things that bring people together? Let's make a list of things that bring people together and rip them apart. This is inclusion. This is DEI. This is the national parks. Those are the things that people generally agree on both sides of the aisle, right? Nature and wanting to feel included and wanting to feel like everything's okay.
Yeah. Wanting to feel like everything's okay. Like wanting to feel like, the country is stable, wanting to feel like the economy is stable and you can, actually make a life for yourself and there's a future that is worth living for.
Yeah. We figured it out.
I don't know. I mean, I think that, I'm really happy that the National Park Service and the alternative National Park Service are continuing to do the kind of advocacy work that they're doing. Because I agree with you. I think that is a uniting cause, you could say. Yeah. So I'm interested in seeing what happens more. I think it's important to be really critical of any new things. Well, in general, be critical of all of it all the time. But especially when it comes to the developments with the National Park Service, that'll be really interesting to watch, to see how that conversation shifts and changes and the language used there.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
We're definitely going to do updates on that one.
Stay tuned.
Hey, and thanks for staying tuned with this episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share to all of your eco-curious friends. And we will see you next time.
Bye, everybody.